So the first item that we'll go through today is just a very brief overview of what the Kiklos 4.0 project is, which in the absence of my colleague coordinator of the project technology, I will do my best to do just a brief understanding, try to fill you in, provide some context of what the Kiklos project um, is. So Kiklos stands for an advanced circular and agile manufacturing ecosystem based on rapid reconfigurable manufacturing processes and individualized consumer preferences. So a very complex name for our project. It started already back in 2020, January, running for 48 months and with a total budget of just under 20 million euros. Okay, so quite a big project, of which, of course, we have some budget allocated to financial support to third parties. So we have 29 partners from different European countries, and you can also see at the bottom that we have some end users, which are specific projects that are going to, specific partners, entities that are actually testing some of the tools and the technologies, the services that we're developing within the framework of the project. Okay, the same thing that we're kind of expecting that the funded applicants in this open call also do as part of their own projects. So what is in fact the rationale behind Kiklos? And all those that are here involved in one way or the other in the manufacturing industry, we're quite aware that many, although there's been significant progress, many companies still use and consume a lot of natural resources, whether that be energy, gas, which is a very particular issue these days, other natural processes and resources as part of their manufacturing process. Okay, and these incur inexpensive costs for the company, overall costs, manufacturing costs. Considering that prices are rising across the world, that is a particular problem. And raw materials are also eventually going to be less available, which is something that we have to take into consideration. So it's very important that we optimize to the extent possible manufacturing processes to ensure sustainability, to reduce costs, to reduce dependability on other resources that we use in particular manufacturing processes. So what we're trying to do within Kiklos is develop an ecosystem which creates the conditions, methodologies, techniques, and different actions that support everything that I just mentioned before. Okay, so what we're trying to achieve is solutions that help to increase energy efficiency, to decrease the use of raw materials, a bigger focus on customer centricity, so that things are in fact, depending on the type of manufacturing framework context that you're working on, things can be tailored a bit more to the demands of the customer, and that sort of fits in with the on-demand manufacturing. And with that, we also try to meet specific Industry 4.0 objectives, whether that be operational excellence, mass customization and personalization, increasing efficiency, reducing waste, and overall boosting competitiveness. With that being said, this image here tries to summarize, although a bit complex, what exactly we're trying to do. So the full framework that we have, the circular manufacturing framework, along the full, let's say, development chain from design to packaging, we're trying to develop and deliver solutions that can contribute to that, to this full framework here. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here. This information is available on our website if you'd like more information. Then, of course, this is something that we can try to provide you. Okay. So if we look at specific objectives, we have scientific and technological objectives that we're trying to achieve. Here we have a list of 11, and just to go through a couple of them, we have, for example, developing a decentralized, interoperable, agent-based business-to-business marketplace platform. We have an objective related to tailored circular manufacturing mass customization services. One related to developing auditing mechanisms, one related to product lifecycle monitoring. So these are objectives, technical, scientific objectives that we define that are going to clearly link to the different technologies and solutions that we've been developing as part of the project over the past couple of years. So I'm not going to identify each one of them. These are here for just representative purposes, but the objectives that we've defined, we've transformed them into specific solutions that are going to be packaged as part of services, which those that have already read through the guidelines, the documentation that we've developed is essentially what not only our Kiklos pilots are doing as part of the validation and testing of such solutions, but also what we're expecting as part of this open call as well. So as I've been mentioning, we also have several pilots. We have sort of focused on in two main areas: smart manufacturing pilots and circular manufacturing pilots, which are handled by 8 partners that we have. For example, we have one focusing on aerospace, on electronic devices, a medical pilot, electronic manufacturing pilot, shipyards, food industry, and automotive. Okay, so we have different pilots representing different areas that are in fact integrating at this stage these different tools that we've developed, this circular framework that we've been developing as well, and they're in that process right now. Okay, so not to spend too much time on this, the description, of course, as I mentioned, you can find a lot more detail on our website through our social media, which I kindly invite you to join, to visit as well. We have a YouTube channel where we're uploading several videos about the tools that we've developed, which in fact is useful for those that are going to apply, because that's where you'll be able to find more detail exactly on the characteristics of such tools, what they do, and how they work with others, as etc. So this has been an introduction just on the project. We'll get to the open call in just a second. But before that, I'd like to give the floor to Angelo Merlo, who was involved in the first open call. His project was funded from the D4CM project, was one of the projects funded in the first open call, and I've invited him, and he's kindly accepted to share his experience about participating in the first open call today. So, Angelo, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. And
you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
First of all, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for the kind introduction from Samuel. I'm Angelo Merlo, R&D responsible of the company Cesi, and I would like to talk about our experience in participation in the first open call. That was a very positive experience. So I go through very quickly to the project objective and a sort of result overview with I show you also the experience in test of Kiklos component, the production equipment clustering, PEC, in this case. Then summarize the final achievement and industrial benefit from our side. Also the benefits, of course, to being part of Kiklos supported experiments, some recommendation according to our participation, and at the end, I put some slide on dissemination activity, but just with some links to find some more materials on the experiment. Okay, we was a consortium of 2 partners, very small, because the call asked this, but was very effective to work in this way. We are a technology supplier in this case, especially regarding machine learning, artificial intelligence techniques. And then we have PAMA, that is a worldwide manufacturer of boring milling machines. That was our end user and provide the pilots for the experiments. Okay, so problem to solve a solution. The problem mainly rise from the customer, that is the end user here, was how to cost effectively reduce the machining, especially the thermal error of machine tool, using existing signals and low-cost temperature sensors, and how predict any anomaly, especially also apart failure, in chipping failure, but also energy consumption anomaly that could be a sort of alarm that something is going wrong in the machines because you consume too much, using same signal and sensor. Okay, what we propose, it's a AI-based cyber physical platform, software plus hardware, that enable a dual mode, thermal error prediction and energy anomaly detection in the common ways, and of course an adaptive control to compensate error on the basis of such a prediction. Well, I go through some details about the first result on thermal error compensations. We use an open source that is NIME analytic platform where we develop our workflows. We're deploying several AI model. The most important one was the C4 artificial neural networks, the gradient boosted tree, the rambut forest, different model, and the best one was selected to make predictions. The machine is here. It's a vertical machine. It's a big machine for milling, turning, and boring of big workpieces from PAMA. We have 6 errors to predict and compensate related to the tool, the spindle position. And here you can see the example that at the end we got. You see in blue the error due to the increasing of temperature to do the process itself. And the red one, what we predict, we can compensate is that you can see that it's quite well fitting the blue curve, and the green one is the residual error that what remain, that is the error that is the difference between compensation and real error. You see on the left for one axis position, and on the horizontal position of the spin in X direction, and on the right is the X direction, but with the spindle rotated in the vertical position. You see that the error remained under 10 microns. That was even better. That was the objective of the users. So I move towards the second result that I want to speak about is energy anomalies detection, where we have the opportunity to test the PC, the production equipment clustering of Kiklos. Here we use, let's call unsupervised clustering to identify energy anomalous behavior associated, for example, to machine malfunction when the machine works, consume too much. For example, maybe there is some increasing of friction, wear in some of the parts that determine such an increasing of energy absorption. You see that we have 2 case studies, one from our experiment, D4CM, that is a boring milling turning machine that we have seen before, and the other from another project that was BREAM experiment. It is another experiment inside the call. So we establish a very close cooperation as well with such an experiment, and we have no any conflict in terms of result, because our project was, you see, 2 completely different domains, one in a big machine, the other in the grinding machine to produce thread cutting tools. So the purpose was how, if we are able, using such a clustering approach provided by the Kiklos team, to clusterize, you see, for example, in 2 domains, temperature and energy consumption, you see some cluster. And if we are able to clusterize some normal behavior due to different process conditions, you see in red, blue, and green, okay, that is a normal different consumption in different situations from machine 1, machine A, and machine B. But if we are able also to find, after clustering, during deployment, to find some point, you see here in black and in yellow, some points that are outliers or noise points that are outside the cluster, found in normal operating conditions. So this is a alarms that is something is going bad in terms of consumption of the machines. So this is what we want to do. We prepare a class data set from our machines and from DREAM machines, and we pre-process according to the need of the tool that was the PSC tools. And here you see the example of what we got. This is the clustering. Okay, we have several axes. You see here we have I put just temperature and energy, but you can imagine we have different temperature in different position of the machine. We have different energy absorption for axis 1, axis 2, and different drives of the machine. So it's a multi-dimensional clustering. Here we reduce the clustering in 3 principal components, is sort of condense all the dimension in 3 main dimensions, but without losing any information. It's just to see for human beings how is the cluster, because in multi-dimensional representation is quite difficult. You see here that the unsupervised clustering, that is some of the method, K-mean, DB-scan, isolation forest, that we agree with the teams of Kiklos. And then you see that such a cluster in normal condition, when we train the algorithm, you see that we identify very, very well which is the normal behavior in different process phases. For example, here, this is the grinding machine to produce the cutting tools. We have a thread grinding and entrance machining, the external feature, the chamfering, and the thread boring. And the clustering was able to identify such a different consumption and temperature for different positions. Then we, as we have no within the time period of the project, we have no any serious anomalies. We stressed some of the sensor signal to generate or to simulate anomalies behavior. And you see here that we, for some signal in anomalies condition, and you see here the orange point, what is the clusterings, and that is separated, clearly separated from, this is a put just for in blue, all the normal condition. And so we was able to detect such anomalies. You see also on the right in the bidimensional plotting such a red point that are also called outliers or noise point. And also we show in the middle, we see a table that is a dashboard where for each timestamp, we see that the first 3 points was normal because we not stressed the first 3 points, but all the other was stressed. And you see that was moved from weak, mid, energy anomaly up to strong energy anomaly where we stressed a lot. And the tool was able to detect in the data set such anomaly. We also, our project has its own tool to predict anomalies because we want to compare to be sure that we have a robust, confident production. And we compare the 4CM own approach and DREAM approach to the Kiklos component PSC result, and was fully aligned. And so we was very, very happy about that, and it was comfort our prediction in order to increase our confidence on the tool. So final achievement, we developed a learn and a predictor module for geometric and thermal error prediction, a control for error compensation in real time, embedded inside the CNC of the machines, energy anomaly prediction modules. And then we have validated the Kiklos PSC component, especially for energy anomaly prediction. Then and this is also an outcome expected from the experiment, is to prepare, because it's a quite high TRL, to prepare a commercialization and business sustainability plan. That it was very important to have clear idea of what is the market for the solution. Okay, for the benefits, I would like to emphasize the last point, that is the reduction on energy consumption. That it was the point, also the objective inside the Kiklos framework, no? The circularity and the sustainability aspect. Reduction minus 15%. This is not just a number put here, it's the number that is due to the saving of energy thanks to the possibility to compensate and to predict energy anomalies. So you avoid any conditioning and thermal conditioning system inside the machine, so thermal cooling of fluids and others, in order to stabilize the machine. In this way, you avoid any extra auxiliary device that consume a lot, and also to put the machine in condition to consume much more than expected, because some friction increases, so you are able to stop and check the machine. And this is 50%, it's a real number. You see here, for a real calculation, and this gives the picture of the importance. For a machine with an installed power 150 kilowatt, that is a typical big boring milling machines, consider the 15% of saving, and the 0.3 euro per kilowatt hour. This is the cost of energy. That was done in June. And now, as you know, nowadays, such a cost is, especially in Europe, is increasing very, very quickly. So we was able to save 26 kilo euros just for one machine per year. If you have a shop floor with 10 machines, you have more than 250 kilo euro of cost saving. And this, in this historical period, it sounds very good for manufacturers. So experiment, I just at the second point, circular. We was able to test the Kiklos tool component, the PSE in this case, for two machines, for two data sets. One from our project, the 4CM, and the other from DREAM experiment that we use in two different machines. And we were able to have the same result in terms of capability to detect energy anomalies. So this will means that we can deploy in any, for example, at the end of life of one machine, we can redeploy the tools for other kind of machine, or renovated machine, or remanufactured machine, or a new one, for example. This is very, very important. So, some benefits in terms of participation in the Kiklos supported. This is very important. So you have access to a dynamic ecosystem and innovative network, various partners. Start a collaboration with partner, real collaboration with partner you select, and you in this case we select the PSE component. So we collaborate with a restricted group, but having the support of whatever you need in the case you have some question to raise about your solution. The upskilling, because we was able, especially in, as I mentioned, in the clustering approach, to increase our skills, to share the view on what we provide, and we have a good feedback also to improve our own approaches, and the visibility of your experiment, because it's your experiment will be published in different media with the support of the Kiklos team. Some recommendations. This is very important. This is from our experience, and I would like to emphasize this part. Here, the experiment is short compared to, of course, to the big A2020 project or New Horizon project that you know, maybe you know. This was a 6-month project. So focus on solution approaches to be exploited and validated from the beginning, because if you want to explore to enlarge too much the field of exploration, you risk not to do anything to validate the solution you want to implement in your shop floor. Keep always in mind, this is very important, the circularity and sustainability goal of your experiment, because apart the importance to have it, but this is a part of the overall Kiklos 4.0 objective. So you have to keep in mind this, and in the review that you have, in the very effective and let's say positive review that you have, this part is also mentioned. So keep in mind, because you will be asked to explain such a point. And at the end, establish from the beginning and effectively with the Kiklos team. In this way, you can boost a successful cooperation. Just from the beginning, you start the cooperation, not in the middle of the project. It is not the way to work in such an experiment. Okay, this is my three recommendations, suggestions that will make our experiment successful, and we are very happy about it. Okay, some dissemination, but you can find it eventually in the slide that Samuel will share, some poster, flyers, and so on. Okay, thank you very much, Samuel. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I give you.
Thank you, Angelo. Thank you very much, Angelo, again for your availability for the presentation. Detailed. I think you touched upon some very useful aspects. I think those recommendations at the end are also very useful. Not only the recommendations after the implementation, but they're quite useful for those that are now preparing the application, their proposal, to be, very specific and think about exactly the value that they're going to deliver, because that is exactly what the evaluators, the external evaluators, are going to be looking for. So that's something for the potential applicants to keep in mind. So thank you again very much, Angelo. I did see that we have a question for someone from the audience, but maybe we'll leave that until the end just to keep the flow of the presentation going. So now we'll continue with the presentation, and now for the next maybe 20 minutes, I'll go through the framework of this second open call. Okay, and we're going to cover key objectives, requirements, the timeline, the funding scheme, how to participate, the application form, the evaluation process, and should you be accepted into the funding program, what exactly you can expect from the sub-granted project implementation. Okay, so what are the key objectives that we're aiming to achieve through the second open call? So essentially, and similar to the first open call, we're looking to fund SMEs and industrial manufacturing companies to carry out manufacturing experiments using the services and technologies that we have developed within the Kiklos project. Okay, so our objective is to fund SME-led consortium of up to 3 entities, so a minimum of 2, maximum of 3. And you should be submitting as part of your application a proposal for a innovative solution, at least TRL level 5, okay, as part of a manufacturing scenario, okay? And we'll get that in a bit more detail in just a couple of slides, what this manufacturing scenario is. And then you'll have to carry out a pilot experiment in the environment, in the setting of your industrial partner, which is mandatory. It has to be partner number 2. Okay, and what we're looking for is that these solutions naturally contribute to improving digital manufacturing processes. So essentially, at this stage, the scenario that you're going to describe, the experiment, it has to adopt one or more of the services that we've defined, that they're clearly described in Annex 1.1, if I'm not mistaken, and also associated with a couple of components. And they're supposed to be integrated as part of this larger solution that you're going to develop. Okay, so we have, it's a service that is coupled to your larger solution. And then what we expect is along the implementation, You integrate, you validate, you test, and we also, as a Kiklos project, receive feedback on exactly the added value of such solutions and tools and services. So what are these requirements that we're looking for? And as I sort of described briefly in the slide before. So you have to as part of your proposal, you have to describe a solution in a manufacturing scenario. So your eventually partner number 2 is currently developing, develop some kind of a product, or is working in some kind of different area, but in fact requires, or those kind of processes could be improved with the development of such a solution. Okay, so that's the scenario that you're going to describe. And then as part of answering that, as part of giving an answer to that scenario, you have to also, as I've mentioned before, select a set of services and components for the project that are going to contribute to achieving the results, the improvement of the manufacturing process that I mentioned before. So as part of the Annex 1.1, because I'm sure that this idea of services and components might be a bit a bit overwhelming at the beginning. These are all described in Annex 1.1, which of course we recommend that you look, that you analyze, that there is a description of the services, a description of these tools, some videos as well to brief you on exactly what the added value of the tools and the components are. Okay, so we have 2 main service categories, focusing on product optimization and smart design. Okay, and these sort of subdivide into 5 main subcategories, which are personalized product specification and optimization of additive manufacturing design. So these are related to product optimization. Then associated to smart design, we have 3 main subcategories, which is maintenance optimization, advanced support for production, and resource use monitoring and optimization. Okay, so these are like a breakdown of the different categories and subcategories. Within these subcategories, you'll be able to see that we've identified 17 different Kiklos services. Each one has its own ID, and each of these services has associated to it 3, 4 different technical components that we see as being a bundle of components that allow that makes sense as part of these specific services. Okay, so you might want to, I'm not sure, you might want to focus on your solution, might want to address maintenance optimization, for example. And then you'll see that there's 7 different types of Kiklos services associated to that, and within that there'll be different components that you would be able to integrate as part of your solution. So in the case, for example, of D4CM, the project that Angelo just mentioned, things were a bit different, but in their particular case, they focused on one particular component, which was the production equipment clustering, and they integrated that as part of their larger solution. So keep in mind that we're trying to balance the number of projects funded for each of these different subcategories. Okay, so there's a minimum and maximum number of projects that we're going to fund for each of the 5 categories that you see here highlighted in blue. Okay, so if we only have, like, for example, 2 or 3 submissions to resource use monitoring and optimization, there's a very high chance that there are going to be a lot of projects funded there. And if we have a lot, we'll have to, let's say, cut out and not fund many in that for that subcategory in particular. To try to clarify a bit more what this scenario is, what we're looking for you as an applicant to describe as part of your proposal, which then sort of feeds into the impact of the implementation. So in terms of the concept, and as I tried to sort of describe briefly before, the manufacturing scenario that you're going to describe and try to sell us and evaluators is, okay, there is a present situation within the industrial partner that you're working with. And through the development integration of a solution that you as a technology integrated, the lead partner, technology integrator developer, develops, then you're aiming to create a 2B, a future solution, a future scenario, a situation where you've clearly improved some kind of manufacturing process. That solution is supported on the services and the technological components that you've selected, okay? And that 2B situation in the future has a direct contribution to circular manufacturing, circular economy as well, okay? So hopefully this small diagram sort of clarifies exactly what we're expecting you to describe as part of the proposal, okay? As Angelo mentioned before, and what we're sort of carrying on into the second open call also is the validation, which is very important for us, which is very important for the European Commission also. So should your project be funded and during the implementation of your project, we'll be asking you to contribute to the validation of these of the services, the tools that you use, and we have for that a specific questionnaire, not much more than that. And we'll be focusing on aspects related to the usability of such services and tools, interoperability, the circularity as well. Also keep in mind, and this is something very important, that what we're looking for is that the solutions you developed, although they're being developed in a very specific framework, we'd also like to see them integrated as part of a larger marketplace that we're developing within Kiklos. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're giving up the rights, the IPR, or you're giving up the solution to the project. No, it's just being made available on let's say a secondary platform for potential use by other entities afterward. So hopefully that is able to provide some clarity on this particular topic. So in terms of the open call timeline, we launched back in 27 July, so we're already with, let's say, 1 month ongoing, and we'll close on the 12th of October. Okay, so that's in 32 days time. Then afterward, we'll start right away with the evaluation, which will take approximately 7-8 weeks, and preferably, or in principle, closing out by the 30th of November. That's when we'll notify all applicants of the results of their application. And starting the 1st of January, so we'll have like the month of December to do all the contracting and so forth. And starting 1st of January 2023, we'll start the actual implementation phase of this funding program. So compared to the first funding, the first open call and respective funding program, we've actually extended by 2 months the program. As Angelo mentioned, and quite well, it's a very short program, so we thought we were able to sort of fit into the larger Kiklos project an extra 2 months to facilitate all of the technological development that is required, and all of the implementation, the testing, the validation that we're also expecting, and of course that the Kiklos project will support you with during that phase. So the funding scheme, we have a total. The Kiklos project had a total of 3 million euros available for open calls. We had 1 million euros in the first one. So with a bit of a surplus that we had, we now have 2.1 million euros available, which is going to fund a minimum of 14 projects. Okay, so quite a large number of projects. That's twice as many as we had in the first open call. So it's going to be also a challenge for us, but it means more opportunities for the applicants to in fact be funded. Okay, so I don't have I know a lot of the questions that we receive exactly is what is the funding rate, like how many projects or what percentage of projects were funded in the first open call. So these numbers are public. We had 7 projects funded in the first open call and 48 submissions. Okay, so you can quickly do that calculation. That's around just under 20%, I think it is. So considering that we're doubling the number of projects, that's a pretty positive prospect in terms of your project being funded. Okay, proposals are going to be eligible to receive up to 150,000 for consortium of 3 entities. Okay, so there is a regular EC limit of capping funding at 60,000 euros per applicant. Okay, So if you're going to be a consortium of just 2 partners, that means that you can't request more than 120,000 euros. Kiklos is going to fund 70% of project costs. What this means is that your project budget can be more than 120 in the case of 2 partners, or more than 150 in the case of 3 partners, but we're not going to fund more than 70% of the budget that you've defined, up to the 120, 150,000 euros, okay? Keep in mind that activities that are funded by other grants cannot be funded by Kiklos. So the question of double funding, if you're doing the exact same thing or very similar in a different project, don't count on it. There are ways to identify that such a situation is taking place. So what we're looking for is innovative ideas that are not been funded in any other funding program, whether that be H2020, either through an open call, national project funding programs as well. So innovative ideas to be funded. Again, if you've been funded from other programs such as Smart Anything Everywhere, the I4MS initiatives, then we'll also be capping the amount of money that you can receive if you participated in such a program like that before. So in a nutshell, 2.1 million euros, 14 projects minimum to be funded. So, you know, if there are a lot of projects with only 2 partners, that means that there's a little bit of surplus up to 150, and that can eventually lead up to a maximum of, I think, of 17 projects. So very good chances of being funded. 150,000 euros for 3 partners, 60,000 euros per partner in the case of 2 partner consortium. What are eligible costs? Of course, human resources, personal costs, you know, the actual implementation, whether that be related to project management, technical development, the testing, experimentation at the pilot facilities, etc. You know, communication, marketing, and any commercialization activities. Other direct costs you might have, you know, if you have to travel to the pilot location, of course, that is covered. You can put that as part of your budget. That's perfectly normal. Subcontracting is allowed, but it should not represent more than 20% of your budget. Note that if there's a very specific thing that you need to be subcontracted, then that's okay. And of course, indirect costs are included as part of your budget. They're not added on top of the 150 or the 60,000 euros that you request. They have to be 25% of those specific of your specific requested budget. Okay. So how to participate? As I mentioned in a couple of slides, so we're looking for 2 to 3 partners. Okay, the consortium leader, partner number 1 in the application form must be an SME. Okay, there's an SME declaration form. There's checkboxes that you commit to indicate that you're in fact an SME. We're going to be doing that cross check. Okay, so please keep this in mind. And the other partner must be an industrial manufacturing entity. Let's say we're not being specific in the sector because manufacturing is such a broad area, and that partner is also where the experiment is going to take place, where the pilot activities take place. A third partner can participate. It must be an SME. They can help with the technology development. They can help with commercialization, with any communication aspects that you want to carry out as part of your project. Some eligibility requirements. We're only funding partners, entities that are established in an EU member state or an H2020 associated country. Okay, partners can be from the same country or different countries. They can be both from Italy, both from Spain. They can be from one partner can be from Portugal, the other from Sweden, and the other one from Greece. So there is no limitation in terms of where the partners come from, as long as it's from a member state or an H2020 associated countries. Okay, you cannot have any link to the 29 Kiklos partners. Okay, you can't be a spinoff from one of them. No link is possible because that creates a conflict of interest. If you haven't signed up for the F6S platform, that is mandatory to be able to participate and submit your proposal, because that is where the application is, and that's where you actually carry out the development of your application. English is the official language for submissions, so everything must be written in English. Some other notes, keep in mind that the actual form on the F-Success platform has some questions with limited characters, so keep that in mind when you're developing. And there is a technical proposal, which I think is Annex 2.1. There's a maximum number of pages, 10, that must be respected when you're developing your proposal. Other things that are relevant to keep in mind: each applicant may submit up to 2 proposals. Okay, we didn't have any of that situation in the previous open call. I guess most of the focus is on developing one solid proposal. If by any chance you do submit 2 proposals, more than 2, then we're only going to count the first 2 that were submitted on F-Success. Okay. Although you can submit 2, we're of course only going to be funding one of the projects, the one with the best results, of course. And if there's anyone here that participated in by any chance in the first open call, you're not eligible to participate in the second open call, even if it's a completely different project. So, for example, we still have here with Angelo from SETI and can't recall the second Puma partner. Yeah, so none of these entities can participate in the second open call. Okay. In fact, if we have anyone that did participate in the first open call but was not funded, then you're more than welcome to submit a new proposal, as long as it's adapted to the specific requirements we've defined for this new open call. If you're here but looking for a partner, we do have a matchmaking platform that is available to use, that is being run by our partner Digital SME. Okay, so feel free to use that. I can't tell you right now how many people have been registered on the platform, but there's no loss in trying your luck if in fact you're looking for someone, either the industrial partner, or if you are the industrial partner and looking for the technology company. And take your shot to register, and maybe you'll be able to find someone to work with in this proposal. So just a couple of slides here on the application form. So once you register and log into F-Success, you're going to see either of these pages. On the left, you see, let's say, the main landing page, where you have a description of what the open call is. And then on the right is the actual application form itself. It has some introductory information, how the proposal is structured, what are the mandatory annexes that you have to fill out, all of the mandatory fields that you have to fill in, and so forth. Okay, so if you're planning on participating, it's never too late. Rather, I'd say register as quickly as possible, start your proposal as quickly as possible if you're in fact interested in submitting, just to get acquainted with the questions that are being asked, the different templates that we're requesting as well. As I mentioned before, there is a technical proposal template. So this is the actual document that the evaluators are going to evaluate you on, the actual concept, that's manufacturing scenario that we've been discussing before, what kind of impact you have, what impact you plan to deliver, what exactly is this implementation, this pilot that you're going to carry out, what are the different activities, the KPIs that you've defined, who is the consortium, and of course the budget, the resources that you're going to use as part of implementing your project. Lastly, as part of the application form, keep in mind that it's mandatory to upload Annex 2.1, what I just showed you one slide ago. Okay, the technical proposal, this is a mandatory document. Keep in mind the page limits. The tables are there to help you in filling out the information that we're looking for, the guidance in terms of in green text that you see here. These are all items that are going to be evaluated by the evaluators. Okay, we've switched things up a bit here in the second open call, in the sense that we're only going to request documentation, declarations, declaration of honor, consortium declaration of honor, and SME declaration form. So for those that have participated in funding programs before, sometimes these are requested upfront with the submission. We're trying to reduce that burden as part of the submission process, and will only, in fact, request it if your proposal is accepted for funding. So we're trying to keep the focus on the actual proposal and less on the administrative aspects until, in fact, your proposal is accepted. Okay, so I think that's the most important thing that we want to highlight here. Moving on to the evaluation process. So the evaluation is going to start mid-October, as I mentioned before. Essentially, what we're looking for is what we do first is an eligibility check, just to make sure that all proposals submitted meet the eligibility requirements that we've defined. So ensuring that all partners are from eligible countries, that the template or that the technical proposal meets the requirements that we've defined. And what else is important? The type of partners, not only where they're from, but the type of partners that are involved, to make sure that you are in fact an SME. Although we'll only check that although we'll only do like a very formal check at the beginning if it's clear to us that the lead partner is not an SME, because I know it's a multinational company that very well known. It's obvious to us that there's a conflict here, and that we'll sort of discard these entities and proposals at the beginning. Those proposals will receive a rejection letter. If you are eligible to participate, which happens most of the time because people clearly because the rules are followed, then we move on to the external evaluation, where each proposal is reviewed by two evaluators, external evaluators, people that are not involved in the project. So it's a very independent review. We will, of course, provide them very clear guidelines on what they're looking for. They'll compile their evaluation reports, and those that are accepted receive an acceptance letter. Those that are not receive a rejection letter, and then you move on to the sub-grant agreement process. Just in terms of exactly eligibility check, as I mentioned, we'll look for ensuring that applicants are legal entities for EC funding under H2020 rules, that applicants are SMEs. Submissions are only done exclusively via F6S. Okay, so we're not going to accept a template, a PDF document sent by email saying, "Oh, please accept this application that we've submitted." So this is kind of why we emphasize that you start the process as soon as possible, that you try to submit well before the deadline. There is a possibility to, if you submit and you're like, okay, I completely forgot to add a little bit of details, we can open up your proposal and you can still work on it before the deadline. Okay. Keep in mind that technological issues or any issue with the platform that is not directly, any issue that you have that is not related to the platform, having some kind of specific bug or anything, that is not going to be an excuse for you to request extra time for submitting the proposal and things like that. So in terms of evaluation, we won't go into too much detail here, but just keep in mind that we have 5 criteria which are aligned with the 5 sections of the technical proposal: the concept, impact, implementation, consortium, resources, and costs. As you can see, the first 3 have a bit more importance in terms of weight than the final 2. Okay, each criteria is evaluated from 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. I'm not quite sure right now at the moment, but of course, the 5 being a perfect score, no flaws, 0 being either you have not filled out any information or the information that is provided is very weak in terms of the content included. And just to wrap up, in terms of what the open call is, should your proposal be accepted for funding, then you move on to the actual open call number 2 funding program, the Kiklos funding program, that is going to last for, let's say, 8 months. Okay, so the first bullet point, or the first item here on the left, is just a summary of what the sub-grant agreement process is. We'll go through the proposal, see how things could be eventually improved, aspects that might be integrated beyond what you have already included, considering the type of proposal that you've submitted. The first month is mainly focused on planning. Okay, so it's like a ramping up stage where where you and the project, where the applicants and the project sort of sit together, discuss, okay, how we're going to integrate these technologies, what has to be adjusted eventually. So we'll review the work plan and we'll make sure that that there is the best possible integration of the services and tools as possible. You know, do like some quick workshops just to make sure that we're fully aware of how things work and so forth. Then there's a 6-month implementation where you actually do the implementation of your pilot, the experiment. There'll be constant feedback interaction with the Kiklos project to help you with any use of the components and the services that you have. And lastly, there'll be a month focusing on business support, eventually trying to find investors if that's the case, opportunities for commercialization as well. We'll organize maybe a couple of webinars throughout this process as well to try to provide you additional information that's an added value, knowledge that might be important in your specific case, okay? And also keep in mind that as part of the implementation program, there'll be 3 reports that have to be submitted, okay? An implementation plan, experiment report, and a commercialization and business sustainability report at the end of each one of these different stages. Okay, so that's something to consider when you get to that stage of the program. So just to wrap up, tips when preparing a proposal. Again, very important that you, through the website on the F6S platform, download all of the documentation, have a read on the website of everything that I've just discussed here, maybe with a different level of detail. Look at the annexes, particular Annex 1, which is a lot more detailed than everything that I've just presented today, okay? Something that we like to suggest is, although the F6S platform, as you start filling it in, automatically saves, it's not a bad idea to copy the fields that you requested and prepare a Word document and work on that, and then before you submit, sort of copy paste into that. It'll just be a bit more simple to do all of the editing because it's not a don't have that kind of what you see is what you get editor with all that formatting options. Again, as Angelo mentioned before, and we linking here to the proposal, be clear, specific, very ambition is always welcome. Make sure that the evaluators can understand the concept of your project, the objectives, what you want to deliver, the degree of innovation, the sustainability of your solution, and so forth. So take your time, review carefully, clarify doubts, and submit well ahead of the deadline. So you have until 12 October. Of course, a couple of days before is best, as I mentioned before. If you have to reopen the proposal, just request it and we'll do it, and then you'll be able to resubmit with the changes that you think make sense, okay? So important links, visit the website OpenCall02 for all the details, the F6S page to apply. There is a frequently asked question document on the website, as well as the Kiklos platform. A lot of people use it to ask questions, and you can see other people's questions and the answers. So that's on the online Q&A. If there's an issue with the platform, reach out to F6S. If there is a specific question that you have about the open call, any specific doubt that we can try to help you with, then there's a specific email that you can use, which is opencalls@kiklos40project.eu. Just before we wrap up, let me close a couple of windows here. I always like to keep this slide with me, which is describing essentially what the open call is. Okay, just the key takeaway from the session today. Keep in mind that we have up to 150,000 euros equity free. Again, that means a lot less financial burden, a maximum of 60,000 euros per applicant. Okay, maybe if this wasn't clear, even if you're 3 partners, okay, that doesn't mean that each of you can claim up to 60,000 euros. It means that maybe 2 partners can get 60,000 euros, but only one can get an additional 30 because there is the maximum of 150,000 euros, okay? Consortium of 2 to 3 entities, keep that in mind. An SME must be the consortium leader, and there must be an industrial partner, manufacturing partner in the project We'll be funding a minimum of 14 projects. Keep that in mind. That's quite a large number of projects. I don't recall in my experience of any open call funding as many projects as we'll be funding here. So there's very good chances of your project being funded. So good luck. What we're looking for is innovative solutions using Kiklos 4.0 services and technologies, not only, but integrating them as part of the larger solution and manufacturing vision that you have in mind. What you'll be able to receive through the project, access to the services and technologies, business and commercialization support. Okay, well, if it makes sense, if your strategy makes sense, then we'll try to get you linked with maybe a couple of investors if there's a clear road to to that end, and of course visibility and promotion for the project that you're developing, for the solutions, and so forth. Okay, so that being said, I'd like to thank all of those that are still here with us, all those that were able to join during the day. Again, a special thank you to Angelo for having joined and presenting the D4CM project, which was one of the more successful projects that we had in the first open call. I think some very interesting highlights that the projects, the applicants, potential applicants that we have today might learn from. And that being said, I truly hope that I've clarified all, if not most, if not all of your doubts today. Again, please reach out to us if you have anything that you'd like to be more clarified. We'll also be having a second webinar later on in the month. That information will be shared. If you'd like to join again, maybe you'll have a question at that time and you'd like to recap everything that was discussed today. So until then, and until the final submission, I wish everyone, if you're working on your proposal, the best of luck. Again, reach out to us with any questions, and we'll be in touch soon. So, very good afternoon to everyone, and take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.